Have you ever met someone who seemed deeply interested in you one day, then suddenly became distant the next? You started wondering, did I do something wrong? What if their silence wasn't always about losing interest? What if, for some people, genuine emotional connection feels both comforting and frightening at the same time? Today, we'll explore the psychology behind avoidant attachment and discover why understanding human behavior can help us build healthier relationships instead of chasing mixed signals. Before we try to understand someone else's behavior, we need to understand one important truth. Every person has a story. The way people react to love, trust, and emotional closeness is not random. It is often shaped by years of experiences, relationships, disappointments, and lessons learned. When we talk about avoidant psychology, we are not talking about people who are cold-hearted or incapable of love. We are talking about individuals who have developed a pattern of protecting themselves from emotional vulnerability. Avoidant attachment is a concept from attachment theory, a well-established area of psychology that explores how early relationships can influence the way people connect with others later in life. People with an avoidant attachment style often learn, consciously or unconsciously, that relying on others can lead to disappointment, rejection, or emotional discomfort. As a result, they become highly independent and often feel safest when they maintain emotional distance. This doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. In many cases, they care deeply but have difficulty expressing those feelings in ways that others easily recognize. One of the biggest misconceptions about avoidant individuals is that they don't have emotions. In reality, they experience emotions just like everyone else. The difference is how they respond to those emotions. Instead of moving closer when they feel vulnerable, they may instinctively step back. While another person might seek comfort during difficult moments, someone with avoidant tendencies may isolate themselves, become unusually busy, or convince themselves they don't need anyone. These behaviors are often protective habits rather than deliberate attempts to hurt others. This is why relationships with avoidant individuals can sometimes feel confusing. One moment they seem warm, caring, and fully present. The next, they appear distant or emotionally unavailable. To someone on the receiving end, this shift can feel personal. They may wonder, what did I do wrong, or why are they pulling away? But in many situations, the distance reflects the avoidant person's internal struggle with intimacy rather than a lack of affection. Feeling emotionally close can activate fears of dependence, loss of freedom, or getting hurt, leading them to create space even when they value the relationship. It's also important to recognize that avoidant attachment exists on a spectrum. Not everyone who values independence has an avoidant attachment style, and not everyone with avoidant tendencies behaves in exactly the same way. People are shaped by many influences, including personality, culture, life experiences, and personal growth. Some individuals may recognize these patterns and actively work to build healthier relationships through self-awareness, reflection, or therapy. Others may continue repeating familiar habits without fully understanding why. Understanding avoidant psychology is not about diagnosing people or placing labels on them. Instead, it's about developing empathy and recognizing that human behavior is often more complex than it first appears. When we stop interpreting every action as a personal rejection, we create room for compassion and clearer communication. That doesn't mean accepting unhealthy behavior or ignoring our own needs. Healthy relationships still require mutual respect, honesty, and consistent effort from both people. The most valuable lesson is this: understanding someone's attachment style can help explain certain behaviors, but it should never be used to excuse repeated disrespect, emotional neglect, or manipulation. Psychology provides insight, not justification. By learning about these patterns, we become better equipped to communicate, set healthy boundaries, and make thoughtful decisions about the relationships we choose to build. Understanding is powerful, but it works best when it is balanced with self-respect and realistic expectations. Imagine standing at the edge of a swimming pool on a hot summer day. Part of you wants to jump in because you know the water will feel refreshing. Another part hesitates because the first splash will be cold and uncomfortable. For many people with avoidant attachment tendencies, emotional intimacy can create a similar internal conflict. They often desire meaningful relationships like anyone else, but getting emotionally close can also trigger feelings of discomfort, vulnerability, or anxiety. This doesn't mean every avoidant person experiences relationships in the same way, but it is a common pattern described in attachment psychology. As trust begins to grow, something interesting can happen. Most people expect that greater closeness naturally leads to greater comfort. However, for someone with avoidant tendencies, increased emotional intimacy can sometimes activate a protective response. They may begin to feel that they are losing their independence or becoming too emotionally exposed. Instead of recognizing these feelings consciously, they might simply notice an urge to create distance. This distancing can appear in many forms. They may become less responsive to messages, spend more time focusing on work or hobbies, cancel plans more often, or seem emotionally less available than they were at the beginning of the relationship to the other person. This sudden change can feel confusing or even painful. It is natural to wonder whether interest has disappeared or whether something has gone wrong. While that is certainly possible in some relationships, attachment psychology reminds us that withdrawal does not always have a single explanation. Sometimes the distance reflects an internal struggle with closeness rather than a complete loss of care or respect. Understanding this distinction can prevent people from immediately blaming themselves for another person's behavior. One reason emotional closeness can feel overwhelming is that vulnerability requires trust. Opening up means allowing another person to see fears, insecurities, and imperfections. For someone who has learned to rely primarily on themselves, this level of openness may feel unfamiliar or risky. Their mind may automatically search for ways to regain a sense of emotional safety, even if the relationship itself is healthy. The result is often a push and pull pattern, enjoying connection one moment and seeking distance the next. It is important, however, not to romanticize this behavior or assume that every withdrawal is evidence of hidden feelings. Sometimes people step away because they genuinely need space. Sometimes they realize a relationship is not the right fit. And sometimes they simply have different priorities. Human behavior is influenced by many factors beyond attachment style. Avoiding the temptation to read every action as a secret sign of affection helps maintain realistic expectations and healthier relationships. If you find yourself caring about someone with avoidant tendencies, patience and clear communication are generally more effective than pressure or repeated attempts to force closeness. Respecting healthy boundaries while honestly expressing your own needs creates a stronger foundation than chasing reassurance. At the same time, your emotional well-being matters just as much as theirs. A healthy relationship requires effort, understanding, and willingness from both people. One person's attachment style does not remove the responsibility to communicate respectfully or consider the feelings of others. Ultimately, genuine connection grows in an environment where both people feel safe, heard, and respected. Understanding that emotional intimacy can be challenging for some individuals encourages empathy, but empathy should always be balanced with self-respect. The goal is not to convince someone to overcome their fears for you. The goal is to build relationships where openness, trust, and mutual effort gradually replace fear with confidence, allowing both people to grow together in a healthy and authentic way. One of the most interesting aspects of human connection is that people are often remembered not because of grand gestures, but because of how they made someone feel. This idea is especially relevant when discussing avoidant attachment. It is tempting to believe that dramatic displays of affection or constant attention will create a lasting impression. However, psychological research on relationships suggests that qualities such as kindness, consistency, emotional safety, and authenticity are more likely to foster trust over time. While these qualities may leave a meaningful impression On many people, including some with avoidant tendencies, they're not a guarantee that someone will develop romantic feelings or remain focused on you. People with avoidant attachment often pay close attention to whether a relationship feels emotionally safe. They may not always express this openly, but they can notice when someone respects their boundaries, communicates calmly, and avoids unnecessary pressure. A person who remains patient during difficult conversations, listens without immediately judging, and treats others with respect can stand out in a world where many interactions feel rushed or conditional. These seemingly small actions often carry more emotional weight than expensive gifts or dramatic declarations of love. Authenticity also plays a powerful role. Many people try to impress others by pretending to be someone they are not. They may hide their opinions, exaggerate their achievements, or constantly seek approval. While this approach may create temporary attention, lasting relationships are usually built on honesty rather than performance. Being genuine allows others to know the real person behind the image. For someone who is cautious about emotional closeness, authenticity can gradually build trust because it creates predictability and reduces uncertainty. Consistency is another quality that leaves a lasting impression. Imagine two people entering someone's life. One is exciting but unpredictable, appearing one day and disappearing the next. The other is reliable, respectful, and emotionally steady. Over time, many people find greater comfort in consistency than in emotional highs and lows. Someone who keeps their promises, communicates clearly, and behaves similarly across different situations often creates a sense of stability. This stability can be particularly meaningful for individuals who find relationships emotionally challenging. Another important factor is respect for boundaries. People sometimes assume that pursuing someone more intensely will eventually win them over. In reality, constant pressure, repeated texting after being ignored, or refusing to accept someone's need for space often creates more distance rather than more connection. Respecting boundaries demonstrates emotional maturity. It sends the message that you value both your own dignity and the other person's autonomy. This approach encourages healthier interactions because it is based on mutual respect instead of emotional pressure. However, it is important to avoid a common misunderstanding. Leaving a positive impression does not mean someone will always think about you or eventually return to the relationship. Human emotions are complex, and many factors influence whether a relationship develops or continues. Shared values, life goals, timing, communication, and compatibility all matter. Psychology can help explain why certain behaviors are appreciated, but it cannot predict another person's future feelings or choices with certainty. Perhaps the greatest lesson is that the qualities that make you memorable are also the qualities that improve your own life. Kindness strengthens your character. Authenticity gives you confidence. Consistency builds trust. Respecting boundaries protects your emotional well-being as well as the well-being of others. These are not strategies for making someone chase you. They are habits that contribute to healthier relationships with everyone you meet. When you focus on becoming someone who brings honesty, respect, empathy, and emotional stability into every interaction, you naturally create stronger connections. Some people will appreciate those qualities immediately, while others may not be ready for that kind of relationship. Either outcome is acceptable. Your value is not determined by whether one person notices your efforts. It is reflected in the integrity, compassion, and self-respect you carry into every relationship. Because those qualities have a lasting impact regardless of the outcome. One of the biggest mistakes people make in relationships is assuming they know exactly what another person's silence means. When someone becomes distant, stops replying as often or seems emotionally unavailable, the mind naturally starts searching for answers. We create stories to fill in the gaps. Some people convince themselves that the other person has completely lost interest, while others believe the silence is proof that they are secretly thinking about them all the time. The truth is usually much more complicated. Human behavior cannot be accurately understood through a single action, especially when it comes to something as complex as emotional distance. This is particularly important when discussing avoidant attachment. A person with avoidant tendencies may sometimes withdraw because they feel emotionally overwhelmed or need time to process their feelings. However, that does not mean every period of distance carries the same meaning. They might be focused on work, dealing with personal stress, questioning whether the relationship is compatible, or simply needing time alone. There is no psychological rule that says distance automatically equals hidden love or constant thoughts about another person. Attachment theory helps explain common patterns, but it does not allow us to read someone's mind. Because of this uncertainty, it is helpful to resist the temptation to interpret every action as a secret message. If someone takes longer than usual to reply, it doesn't automatically mean they're playing games. If they ask for space, it doesn't necessarily mean they are hoping you will chase them. Likewise, if they return after a period of distance, it doesn't always mean they have realized you are the one. Relationships are influenced by many different emotions, circumstances, and personal decisions. Looking for hidden meanings in every interaction often creates more confusion than clarity. Another common trap is idealizing emotional distance. Some people believe that if they disappear long enough, the other person will inevitably miss them and come back. While absence can sometimes give people space to reflect, there is no guarantee that distance strengthens feelings. In some cases, it allows both people to move forward with their lives. Healthy relationships are usually built through open communication, mutual respect, and consistent effort, not through guessing games or emotional strategies designed to provoke a reaction, instead of asking, what are they secretly thinking? A more helpful question is, what is actually happening? Pay attention to observable behavior rather than imagined intentions. Do they communicate honestly when they are available? Do they show respect for your feelings? Are they willing to work through challenges together? These actions provide far more reliable information than trying to interpret silence or occasional mixed signals. This perspective also protects your emotional well-being. When you spend too much time analyzing someone else's behavior, you can lose sight of your own needs. You may begin waiting for signs, searching social media for clues, or replaying old conversations in your mind. Over time, this emotional investment can create unnecessary stress and prevent you from enjoying the present. Focusing on facts instead of assumptions helps you make healthier decisions based on reality rather than hope or fear. Understanding avoidant psychology should encourage compassion, but it should never lead you to ignore your own emotional needs. If someone consistently keeps you guessing, avoids honest conversations, or leaves you feeling emotionally exhausted, it is reasonable to ask whether the relationship is meeting your needs. Empathy and self-respect can exist together. You can understand that someone may struggle with closeness while also recognizing that a healthy relationship requires mutual communication and effort. The strongest relationships are not built on decoding hidden messages or predicting what another person is thinking. They are built on trust, honesty, and actions that match words. When you stop chasing certainty through assumptions and start valuing clear communication, you replace confusion with confidence. That shift not only improves your relationships with others, but also strengthens the relationship you have with yourself, because your peace of mind no longer depends on trying to solve someone else's silence. When people become emotionally invested in someone who seems distant or difficult to understand, it is easy to believe that happiness depends on winning that person's attention. Many begin changing themselves, constantly checking their phone, overthinking every conversation, or wondering what they can do to become more attractive in the other person's eyes. While these reactions are understandable, they often shift the focus away from the one person you have the greatest ability to influence, yourself. One of the most powerful lessons in any relationship is that your energy is better spent on personal growth than on trying to control another person's emotions or decisions. Personal growth is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming more emotionally healthy, confident, and authentic. Confidence does not come from hearing someone else say, "I choose you." It comes from knowing your own values, recognizing your strengths, and understanding that your worth is not determined by another person's approval. When your self-esteem depends entirely on how someone responds to you. Every delayed message, canceled plan, or moment of silence can feel like a judgment of your value. But when your confidence is built from within, those moments become easier to handle because they no longer define who you are. An important part of personal growth is developing emotional maturity. Emotional maturity means responding thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It means being able to express your feelings honestly without becoming controlling or manipulative. It means respecting another person's boundaries while also protecting your own. In healthy relationships, both people are responsible for communicating openly and listening with respect. Emotional maturity allows you to navigate disagreements without turning every conflict into a personal battle or assuming the worst about the other person's intentions. Another valuable area of growth is building a meaningful life outside of relationships. People are naturally drawn to individuals who have purpose, interests, and goals of their own. This does not mean becoming busy simply to appear unavailable. It means genuinely investing in your education, career, hobbies, friendships, health, and personal passions. A fulfilling life creates balance. Instead of placing all your emotional energy into one relationship, you develop multiple sources of happiness and fulfillment. This makes you more resilient when relationships face challenges because your entire identity is not tied to one person's presence. Self-awareness is equally important. Every relationship offers an opportunity to learn something about ourselves. Perhaps we discover that we fear rejection more than we realized. Perhaps we notice a tendency to seek reassurance too often or avoid difficult conversations. Instead of viewing these discoveries as weaknesses, we can see them as opportunities for growth. The more we understand our own emotional patterns, the better equipped we become to build healthy, respectful relationships in the future. It is also essential to recognize that love cannot be forced. No amount of kindness, patience, or personal improvement can guarantee that another person will choose to build a relationship with you. That reality may feel disappointing, but it is also freeing. It reminds us that relationships are partnerships, not projects. Both people must willingly invest in trust, communication, and mutual respect. Your responsibility is not to convince someone of your value. Your responsibility is to live in a way that reflects your values and allows you to form connections with people who appreciate them. Perhaps the greatest transformation happens when your motivation shifts. Instead of asking, how can I make them notice me? You begin asking, how can I become the best version of myself? That change in perspective affects every part of your life. You communicate with greater confidence, make decisions with greater clarity, and choose relationships based on compatibility rather than fear of being alone. Ironically, people who focus on genuine self-improvement often become more attractive to others. Not because they are trying to impress anyone, but because they radiate authenticity, emotional stability, and self-respect. At the end of the day, the most rewarding journey is not chasing another person's attention, but becoming someone you are proud to be. Relationships may come and go, but your character, your values, and your personal growth stay with you throughout your life. When you invest in those qualities, you build a foundation that supports not only healthier relationships, but also a happier, more meaningful life, regardless of who chooses to walk beside you. As we reach the end of this discussion, perhaps the most important lesson is not about avoidant psychology at all. It is about the kind of person you choose to become. It is natural to want answers about why someone acted a certain way or whether they still think about you. We all seek certainty when relationships leave us with unanswered questions. However, the healthiest path forward is rarely found by trying to control another person's thoughts or predict their feelings. Instead, it begins with focusing on what you can control. Your own character, your own choices, and the way you show up in your relationships. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that they can change someone through enough love, patience, or sacrifice. While support and understanding can positively influence a relationship, lasting change comes from within the individual. If someone recognizes their own emotional patterns and wants to grow, they can learn healthier ways of communicating and connecting with others. But no one can force that process. Trying to rescue, fix, or transform another person often leads to frustration, because real personal growth requires personal commitment. This realization is not meant to be discouraging. In fact, it is incredibly empowering. The moment you stop carrying responsibility for another person's emotional journey, you create space to invest in your own. Instead of spending endless hours wondering why someone pulled away, you can ask yourself more meaningful questions. Am I communicating honestly? Am I respecting my own boundaries? Am I choosing relationships that bring peace rather than constant confusion? These are the questions that lead to lasting emotional growth. Healthy relationships are built on reciprocity. That means both people contribute to the connection. Both people listen. Both people make an effort. Both people take responsibility when mistakes are made. If one person is doing all the emotional work while the other remains consistently unavailable or unwilling to communicate, the relationship becomes unbalanced. No amount of psychological understanding can replace the need for mutual respect and shared effort. Compassion is valuable, but it should never come at the expense of your own emotional well-being. Another lesson worth remembering is that your value is not determined by whether someone chooses you. Every person has unique preferences, life circumstances, and emotional readiness. Sometimes two good people simply are not compatible, and that is not a reflection of either person's worth. Rejection, distance, or the end of a relationship may be painful, but they do not define your identity. Your value comes from your integrity, kindness, resilience, and the way you continue to grow despite life's disappointments. There's also tremendous strength in accepting uncertainty. Not every relationship ends with complete understanding. You may never know exactly why someone became distant or what they truly felt. Waiting for perfect closure can keep you emotionally tied to the past. Acceptance does not mean pretending nothing happened or ignoring your emotions. It means recognizing that you do not need every answer in order to move forward. Sometimes peace comes not from solving every mystery, but from deciding that your future is more important than unanswered questions. As you continue building relationships, remember that authenticity will always be more powerful than pretending to be someone you are not. Speak honestly, listen carefully, respect boundaries, both yours and theirs. Be willing to be vulnerable, but also be wise enough to recognize when your efforts are not being matched. A healthy relationship should inspire growth, trust, and emotional safety, not constant anxiety or confusion. If there is one message to carry with you today, let it be this. Understanding psychology is valuable because it helps us develop empathy, but empathy should always walk hand in hand with self-respect. Learn about people, appreciate their struggles, and treat them with kindness. At the same time, never lose sight of your own needs, your own dreams, and your own peace of mind. The strongest relationships are not built by chasing someone who keeps running away. They are built when two emotionally responsible people choose, day after day, to meet each other with honesty, respect, and genuine care. And when you become that kind of person, you have already achieved something far more meaningful than simply capturing someone's attention. You've created the foundation for relationships that are healthy, balanced, and truly fulfilling. As we conclude, remember that understanding avoidant psychology isn't about learning how to make someone chase you or think about you. It's about developing empathy, emotional intelligence, and self-respect. Healthy relationships are built on trust, honest communication, mutual effort, and personal growth, not on assumptions or mind games. When you focus on becoming the best version of yourself, you naturally attract healthier and more meaningful connections. Thank you all for your time, attention, and thoughtful listening. I hope today's discussion has given you valuable insights that you can apply not only in your relationships, but also in your journey of personal growth. Have a wonderful day.